I have officially launched over 400 rockets. So
what?
Podcasting is the cheapest and simplest way to provide value to your ideal client. You're providing value tenfold to an audience member, to your ideal client, to your ideal audience. It is a blue ocean that will continue to be a blue ocean because we are 8 billion strong and we're only growing more, and everybody wants to know something. Not everybody's going to continue, but the people who persevere will be able to make the money from it.
The only time we all end up running out of choices, the ability to make choices, is when we stop asking questions. Because questions create what? They create options and opportunities for us.
After I got my first 5 clients, I popped a bottle of champagne with my wife. We drank until we were freaking stupid, and then it set in that, oh shit.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Brian Bogert, and we are here again with Flipping the Lid. And we always have real, raw discussions with some of the most impactful and influential people in this world. What's beautiful about that is that it doesn't necessarily mean it's somebody you know. It may be somebody you know, but what I love is whenever we get to know people on this show, we get to see how universal we are all connected. Today, we've got an absolutely incredible badass human with us. He's somebody that reached out to me maybe a year ago, six, maybe 9 months ago, and I was a guest on his show and just really, really jammed with his energy. It was interesting to be able to pick up so quickly in how much of a student of his craft he's been. And in fact, that's how he jumped into podcasting, was the opportunity to work in Kevin Smith's network called Smodcast way back when. Since then, he's launched his own show, had a huge amount of downloads, and helps other people understand how to monetize and step into their message through podcasting. He also is just somebody that has a big heart that you can tell instantly cares, instantly wants to make an impact. And what I'm going to say, lack of ego that exists with this person makes him so humble and accessible that he was somebody I really wanted to feature on this show. There's a whole lot we're going to discuss today. This guy is just a dynamic human being that's got his hands in a variety of different things and yet is also eager to continue to grow. So what I know is that Phil Better gets better every single time I talk to him. And what I didn't say in the intro, but I'm going to say to you now, bro, is I loved that the world blew up last time we tried to record. And what do I mean by the world? In podcasting, when the tech breaks, your world breaks, right?
Yes.
And you as a veteran, podcaster, you pride yourself on your equipment, your quality of all these things. Your audio was horrible. Oh, yeah. I mean, it was unlistenable to on the other side while I was having the conversation. And I didn't say this out of judgment or criticism other than I've been there. And yet this time, bro, what happened? You got a clean slate. You showed up. You changed your camera angle. You changed the depth of your sound. Boom, it hit hard instantly. And Phil Better is better, and that's why he's here with us today.
Dude, I'm used to giving such impactful intros for my guests and they're always like, oh my God, that was the best intro ever, or I need to carry you around. Now I know what it feels like. And wow, I am just like, oh my God, I'm fangirling. This is amazing. But Brian, thank you so much for that amazing intro and allowing my badassery to be on this podcast with you.
Dude, I like real people, right? Real knows real. And to me, real doesn't have a status or a hierarchy. It's just accessible, right? And that's what I believe so many of us in humanity need to focus even more on is there's the facts and then there's what's true, right? And we struggle in a lot of ways around what that is, but real still knows real. Right? When it comes to people. And you're one of those, man. I'm happy that intro landed for you. I think you know this. I don't prepare questions. I don't script those intros. I just speak from my heart based on how I've interacted with somebody and what I believe or who I believe them to be. But now you know the next question that's coming, because it's the only question I ask every single person on both of my shows after I intro them is, regardless of however I introed you and however that landed for you, regardless of what you do or don't do, bro, who are you in your words?
Oh, God. I'm just a guy who likes learning. I hated school, but I love learning. I love that I'm in a place right now that I have the ability to self-learn, self-educate, and just find out about things whenever I want, thanks to my podcasting. And I'm someone who's searching for freedom, not just freedom from the 9 to 5, but freedom from everything that's trying to control you. And I'm not talking about the mythical them or anything like you have to live in society, right? And follow the rules of the society that you live in. But being told that you're not allowed to do something when you want to, when you morally and ethically, it falls into that like not gray zone. It's the yes zone, but it's like legally, it's like, what do you mean? It's not hurting anybody. You know, like jumping off a cliff into the water of an old, you know, mine shaft or something like that, you know, like doesn't hurt anybody. And I'm full aware of the consequences that I could die doing this. I'm going to do it. You know, having that freedom to do that. That's something that's someone who I've been searching. I'm searching for life. I think that's always going to be something core to me, that freedom.
So, bro, there's a whole lot wrapped up in that answer.
Yeah, I know.
I'm excited to hit on, but I felt the end of that viscerally. Not only because I personally resonate and understand that, but you said something very, very, very powerful that I want to highlight. I believe completely in everyone having as much freedom in as many possible ways and categories as they possibly can, as long as their actions and freedom don't translate to damaging other people or taking away other people's freedoms. Right? And I heard that in what you said. And that's what I heard in the emphasis of it is it's like, I'm not hurting anybody. Yeah. I know this. I believe that about you. I don't believe that about what everybody wants with freedom right now. And that's a scary thing, right? And so I want to start there on freedom because you didn't really define what freedom means to you other than the removal of control and external control. But I want you to get a little more granular. Like, what does freedom actually mean to you? And what are you in the process of doing or being that's helping you facilitate more freedom in your life and the lives of those around you? Nothing like a 3-part question.
Yeah.
For those of you that are listening to this, Phil's face just went like, oh, fuck. I don't know where
I'm like, okay, I got the first half. Oh, we're going for a second part. Now you want to, dude.
Phil, come on,
like
bro.
first
Layers.
They're layered like an onion.
Exactly.
Gonna make
Not
me
like
cry.
a cake.
So freedom for me just means like you control your life, right? That's what it means. Like you're an individual. If you choose to go to work a 9 to 5, that's your choice. You have that freedom to choose that, right? If you're like, no, I don't want a 9 to 5. I want that part-time gig and then I can go do this. I can do that. Or you want to go like full entrepreneur where you go like, screw this. I don't want anybody to tell me what I can do, when I can take a vacation. I get to control every aspect of my life. And then you're free to choose that, you know, and you live the consequences. Sometimes it means you're eating ramen noodles for a week straight, praying that the bills come in, you know, and the bill collector doesn't knock down your door. Or on the flip side, you have that freedom to know, you know what, I want the safety of a job, to raise a family, do the white picket fence type ideal, and have that freedom. Like freedom is choice, like whatever you want to choose, you know, how you want to buy your time, how you want to sell your time. Because time is the only 100% thing we have that is a limited quantity. It's like Bitcoin. There's only a limited number of Bitcoin. We only have a limited number of hours, minutes, and seconds on this planet that we can sell.
That's right.
Sell to people, sell to corporations, you know, sell to clients, sell to business ideas, hobbies. You know, money has been shown that it can be reproduced. Like we've gone through how many different styles of monetary aspects in the last 300, 400, 500, 600 years, right? The only constant is, you know, time will disappear. Well, is the only thing you can pay. So that's what you pay for your freedom.
You know, I really appreciate where you took it, and we're going to like actually have some different conversations beyond the philosophic and ethereal. But like, I also know that like you can jam and hang in that space. So I kind of want to just play with this for a second.
Sure.
You know, there've been a number of conversations and stage events and events that I've been a part of here recently where this conversation around freedom continues to be a major focus. And if I distill mostly what I hear from everyone across the board is that even people's definition of success and wealth is coming down to ultimately this concept of freedom. And it's also very clear, and I've said for a very long time, that we're only as good as our questions, right? Why? Because the only time we all end up running out of choices, the ability to make choices, is when we stop asking questions, right? Because questions create what? They create options and opportunities for us.
Mm-hmm.
And if we continue to open ourselves to the possibility of questions, right? One thing that I know guaranteed, and I teach, because it's one of the greatest lessons I learned from my dad, Phil, is no matter what, always guaranteed in life, we have a minimum of 2 choices. They both might be shitty choices, right? You could be held up at gunpoint and your choice is to get shot or hand over all your worldly possessions. But what if in just that moment you were able to pause and ask a different question and give yourself another option? Another choice that might not seem so binary, like so many things that trap us. And why I highlight this is because this leads full circle to your very first answer, which was that you are a learner, but ultimately what you're after is freedom. And I think the only way you can learn is if you ask good questions. And so I want to bring this full circle and really help understand, as crazy as this sounds, we could wrap this conversation up in 10 minutes. We're not going to do that, by the way. But
Let's hope not.
We could literally do a beginning to end full circle on just a couple of questions here, which is okay, well, now we just unpacked freedom. When did you learn the importance of being a learner? And how did you learn to ask the right questions or better questions to give you a greater opportunity to learn?
I think I realized it in 2020 when I started therapy. However, I've always been someone who loves learning. I think it falls into the childhood perfectionist that I had in my role when in my family. I'm the middle, going into some family backgrounds and all this. I'm the middle child. Funny enough, I'm the black sheep in my family, but I thought I wasn't. I thought it was my brother and my sister, my older sister, younger brother. But because I didn't cause any issues in my family, either with school or within the family unit, I was actually the black sheep of the family, which is really odd to think of because I always thought my sister or my brother was. But I always loved school, but I was this is boring because I was quick. I had a quick understanding. I had seen a psychologist for a review when I was in grade 3 because apparently thought I had ADHD or some like that. But they're no, his comprehension is just 2 grades higher in certain things. So I understand things and I quickly and I see patterns quickly and stuff like that. So I like learning. I've always liked learning, but I didn't realize it was a superpower and how powerful it was. And until 2020, when I started therapy and unpacking it and going, wow, I'm actually a jack of all trades, but I'm a master at learning. Cause I always we have the internet and just jump on and I have this question I want to learn. I have YouTube, I want to learn about this. I taught myself automation. I taught myself podcasting. I taught myself a lot of things because it's okay, I just need to know just enough that I can build something and I have an understanding. And then asking the right question that came with time, but I always wanted to be a better communicator, and I wanted to understand things better, both human and, between 2 guys and a guy and a girl and stuff like that. So I started trying to understand human connections, human psychology as well, body language and stuff like that. And understanding actually acting, because I love acting, right? That's part of my past. I did some theater work when I was in high school, but I studied acting because you have to get into character. So you have to understand people. And then, so you have to ask questions that are psychological based. And so you have to do those thought processes, those thought programs, right? To understand, okay, this is the character, even though these characters weren't very high. It was you're a miscreant on the backstage, or you're a police officer, or you're the love interest, but it's still you're reading these books on acting theory to get better so that you can, develop this craft. Cause I'm going to become an actor. I'm going to go to Hollywood, become Chris Hemsworth or something, probably end up more like Jack Black, but hey, it's still a living. And so that helped me understand. So when I talk with someone, I can kind of get into their mindset and find maybe a question that will spark a better emotional answer, but also allows me to get into the idea, the mindset of my audience. So doing Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur podcast, and interviewing, we're now at, I think, 600 interviews so far with close to 500 released. after a while, you're like, okay, these questions are like, it's really boring. But or like some of the answers get always the same, or you hear the same responses, like, because I ask like 3 permanent questions all the time. But it's the stories that you're able to elicit. And that's the most powerful thing. So it's learning, using tools to improve. Like I've used ChatGPT when it came out. And I have I pay monthly for it because it's freaking genius. But I have a project that's just my guest intros and guest questions so that it learns from the type of guests that I have. And okay, this guest had something like this. And so I'm also learning from it, the questions it's coming with. And I'm like, okay, I like this. This question kind of gave us a better response. So I'm going to keep that in my back pocket and see if we can put it in somewhere else. So it's just trial and error. It's a lot of failure because sometimes a question will get you yeah, okay, I did this. And you're like, okay, that wasn't, I got nothing from it. I can't find something else to go deeper into the question. And as an interviewer, how painful it is when you get like the 1 to 2 answers to your question. You're hoping like, I want him never to shut up.
Well,
that's what an interviewer wants. Your guest never to shut up.
And I do believe though too that like, there's obviously different styles of podcasts, right? There's interview like really done in an intent to only interview this person. Then there's very conversational style, which I would equate this show to. It's interview focused, but I also very much interject with personal anecdotes and things because I believe it's a bridge that connects some of those stories. And that's just my style, right? But at the same time, to your point exactly, I am always, as a host, happy when I ask a question and somebody doesn't know the answer right away, or you can tell they haven't been asked that before, or they pause for a second and they're like processing what was said and a couple of layers that I add in. But to see how people respond and process is also a part of the purpose of this show, right? It's not to show that any one person is better, worse, faster, slower, smarter, dumber. It's like, no, we all are different. And it's about trying to meet people where they are to be able to have the best conversations and connections possible. So this is where I want to challenge you just a little bit because I appreciate your answer, right? 2020 and your ability to start to understand the power of questions when you started to go to therapy. But dude, you were in podcasting in 2014. You launched your first show in 2017.
Yeah.
Right. And yes, your current platform and what you did after your little hiatus in 2020 kind of blew up. And that's why you're in the hundreds of thousands of downloads. But like, you're not a rookie to the concept of how to interview. And so that's, I think, maybe where I want to focus. Go. Well, then tell me.
So my first podcast was going to be an interview base. It was called so my first ever podcast in 2014, where only 1 episode was recorded, was called The Man Hour of Manliness. It was me and my buddy and his
Man Hour of Manliness.
Yeah, I know. Like, listen, 2014, I'm probably in my middle 20s, I'm
The Man Hour of Manliness.
Yeah,
Let's
right.
celebrate the shit out of that. I love it.
Like really manly sound.
Hold on. I don't know why, but I just feel like this is relevant for this. Hold on.
Yeah, it's like it's the beginning of the manosphere kind of thing, right? That episode thankfully has been lost to all archival possibilities. Unless someone finds a broken iPad in some dump in Montreal. Hopefully no one's going to look for those. But yeah, so that started my dream of being a podcaster. 2017 launched the Feel Better show because I was like, oh, if Joe Rogan has his name after his show, I can do the same, right? Because I'm just as famous as Joe Rogan. This is 2017 when he didn't really blow up, right? 3 years before he blew up. I thought I was going to interview people about their love of movies because I enjoy a good movie. Apparently,
what's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie of all times. I know I'm going to get ridiculed for this because it's a problematic film, but I love the stupidity of the Boondock Saints movie.
Dude, that's an epic movie. That's a solid go-to. I wouldn't put that in my top couple, but that is a solid movie.
Like, I understand the whole problematic of the film, fully realize, like, yes.
Well done. So artistic, so creative, so cinematic.
It's that and Clerks. Those are the two that, like, I just love. Very vastly different films.
Right, The Hangover's in my top 3, bro. That shows my standard, right? So
The Hangover is another epic because it's the first type of a movie where they're trying to, you get a bit of the beginning. It's like a Tarantino type film, right? Like Tarantino likes to cut his films in different styles of, and you bring out the cinephile in me. I love you for this. Tarantino tells a story differently. Like you look at Reservoir Dogs, you look at Pulp Fiction, you look at all, what's that? One of his other movies. I can't coming off the top of my head, but like
Kill Bill.
Not Kill Bill. It was.
Didn't he do that?
Pardon?
Didn't he do Kill Bill too?
Yeah, he did Kill Bill, but it's the one after Pulp Fiction. Torino. Travolta's in it. Bruce Willis.
I'm drawing a blank, bro.
Yeah. Anyways, there's like, I know it's after Pulp Fiction, or I believe it's after Pulp Fiction, but like the timeline, like it's all broken up in the timelines, and Hangover is just like that, but in reverse. I have to figure out what they did going back to the first, and then they get the whole flashback, and it's an epic movie, and I love it because it's like the first of its class in the comedy. But anyways,
this is when ADD takes over. I have it as well.
Yeah, like this is when I'm like cinephile. Let's talk movies. Shiny new object. But yeah, so I was like,
did you hear we just said that at the same time, bro?
We did.
I said shiny object. We both said shiny object at the same time. That was hilarious. All right,
I love that. So yeah, like that was what my idea for my first real podcast. Turned out that I didn't find anybody that loved movies as much as I did, that I could sit and talk with and have this movie. I didn't have enough following. Now I probably could find thousands of people. Fast forward like 2 episodes, I ended up getting a co-host. So we just tried to be like a podcast called The Weekly Planet. 2 brothers, 2 guys, best friends from Australia that just talk about movies, pop culture and stuff like that. But they're really focused on that. And it's off the back of the Mr. Sunday Movies YouTube channel. Like it's the same thing. And he's grown, and like what he does is, I'm like, I want to copy that, but do it bigger. Because he's created a network and a whole bunch of great things that podcasters should be studying what he did and how he grew his podcast. But anyways, again, that's the business side of me. Started doing it wasn't interviews. It was just me and my buddy talking about movies. And so I had like literally 2 interviews in my whole life up until the point I did, invest in yourself.
So it really did shift.
Yeah, 100%. I went from complete hobby, because I looked at the Feel Better Show as a hobby podcast because it was costing me money to podcast. Then I shifted to invest in yourself, where I'm like, no, I'm going to use this to make money. And so I'm going to treat it like a business. Because like during 2020, if you were on YouTube, you saw nothing but entrepreneurial stuff without things. You got like Alex Hermosi, you had more ClickFunnels, you had a whole bunch of YouTube channels. This is how you make money online, all these quick get rich quick schemes. And I watched them and I'm like, okay, I tried a few of them and they're hard as shit. You have to sometimes have money to make it, or you just get lucky, right?
There's some truth in that to some degree that I don't think is talked about enough, that there's an element of people being able to fund marketing at a level that many beginners are not capable of.
Yeah, no.
Right? And to bootstrap something, it's different than buying your way into a marketplace.
Yeah. Like the self-made millionaire story is kind of not that true. But so I watched that and I'm like, okay. What am I missing? Like I'm missing a point here. I'm like, I'm not getting, why am I not being successful? Like, what am I missing? I know there's like the 5 people that surround yourself. I'm like, I know this shit, but like, why am I not being the success that I know I can be? Right? Everybody says I can be a success. And like, this is during nearly, the start of the upward trend in my therapy, right? Because I was going weekly therapy sessions. Then COVID hit. Like I started therapy in the beginning of like literally February 1st was my first of 2020 was my first therapy session, weekly for nearly 8 months, I want to say. And then we started going every second week for 6 months. And then every month was where we're at now. And so we were starting that every other week. And I was starting to see more positive, growing out of my shell, realizing the toxic traits and all that, and I was getting healthier. And so I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to just ask entrepreneurs. I've been in enough entrepreneur things. I can probably find some people that I can ask that are like a couple steps ahead of me. Cause you always find people ahead of you will always tell you what to do. And the response was incredible. I think, I put the post in the middle of October, for interviews starting in November. And within 2 days, my calendar was booked solid with people. Like literally it was like from 5:30 to 10, Monday to Friday was interviews of 45 minutes each with people. And I was like, oh fuck. Okay. Shit. I got shit to do now. Recorded enough, launched and like I fumbled. Most of the first episodes are pure shit. Pure shit. Cause I didn't know what to ask. I didn't know how to do an interview. I was like fucking out of my element, right? Here I am coming out of this Great Depression trying to ask people who are more successful than me, right? Like, and like money doesn't bother me because I've been inside that world from working in conventions, some of my past jobs, and I look at how people treat each other. And if you're coming on my podcast willing to talk about business, then you're already like, you're like 80% a good person. Right? Because you're willing to share. If you're willing to share your like and help people out of the gutter, you're a good person. And some of the questions were like, so how did you become successful? What did you do? Why did you do that? What about marketing? What did you do about marketing? How did you hire someone? And like yes, they're valuable, but I hate those episodes. Because they're not polished. They're not, and they're golden nuggets in it, but I don't feel I did enough for my guests and for my audience to make sure that the value was there. But they're in the rawness of there's diamonds in there. I know there's gold.
Is that only looking at it in reverse, or did you feel that way when you made them?
In reverse. I'm always critical of my work, right? And I always say this.
Remember that.
Yeah,
you are adding the value that you do to your show today, unless you had those shitty first shows.
Yeah, like
great enough and willing enough, and also naive enough to not know how it came across. Right? Yeah. It's the reps, as you said it.
Yeah, you don't know how bad it is until you get further along, and then you realize how bad it was, and you're like, "Oh my god, I wish I did better." And that's all.
Why is it that we look at everything in reverse through judgment and criticism versus opportunity and celebration?
I do that for everybody else, but myself. It's weird.
Would say that's true for many people who care about other humans. It's that same internal piece. So that's what I want to ask you. For you, Phil, why is it criticism and judgment looking in the rearview mirror versus celebration and opportunity?
Because I want to help so many people. I look at it as like I could have done better for the audience. And not be so selfish that I was only looking for answers for myself. I wanted those podcasts. I look at my podcast as an opportunity for those of the individuals who are currently stuck in the 9 to 5. They've done their time in the 9 to 5, be it a decade, either in corporate or just regular 9 to 5-ery. And they want to escape that because they know that it's not for them. And
so wouldn't you suggest that you might have just been the one who had the courage to ask the questions that your audience ultimately was wondering for themselves anyway?
And I do that now. You
did that then too.
I don't feel I did because I didn't.
I get what you're saying. I'm just simply trying to shift.
Yeah, I know. You're trying to be the good guy and just say, hey, look, let's look over here. Instead of like that meme of, depending on your view, and it's the person driving across a cliff, and one side's the mountainside and the other side is this beautiful vista. I'm looking at the mountainside. Let
me ask you a question, Phil. If you wake up in the morning and you tell yourself you're going to walk to the horizon line, do you ever arrive?
No.
What happens?
You just have to keep walking because the horizon keeps moving.
Because the horizon keeps moving, right?
Yeah.
So, but there's days that you will have walked 25 miles. You will have walked 10 miles. You will have walked 5 miles. There's days that you will have walked 2 because that's all you had or that's all that you needed at the time. That's all I'm trying to shift is because I see this, and this is a pathway to success in terms of how we hold ourselves to a certain standard. But again, once shame and blame exist, growth and opportunity go out the window. Mm-hmm. And so for someone as good as you, that's all I'm trying to highlight is it's like, bro, I get the commitment to consistently getting better. Sign me up. I'm there every single day. I hope I'm better tomorrow, 2 days from now, 5 days from now, 5 years from now than I am today. If I'm not, then I'm not the person I say I am. But at the same time, I am only capable of as much as my own existing experience, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of the variables in front of me allow me to do today.
I mentioned that I hate you.
Well,
I say that with so much love.
I hear that with love. I do.
Yeah, that like when you
That's it, bro.
and for your listeners, so that they know, and I'm pretty sure you got this. Like, I have so much respect for you that when I can be honest and like know when you throw truth into my face, I could say I hate you for that. Why did you take off my rose-colored glasses? It was nice, it was pretty, but it's true. I have to look at it as a different way. Yes, those episodes, and I tell these to my clients when I launch a podcast with them, because I'm like, look, your first couple episodes are gonna fucking suck. Like, your first episode is your best and worst episode. Then your second episode is going to be either better than the first or worse than the first. And then your first episode becomes your best episode. But for me, I look at it, I'm like, I could have gave more value to my audience. Like, yes, I realized
you and everyone else in your audience, you took action to do something different.
Yeah.
Look at literally go onto my YouTube channel and try to get back to the earliest fucking videos. Or Google Brian Bogert's Bullets episode 1. It came out in 2015. I can look at it and be like, it is garbage.
Oh, yeah.
Compared to where it is. But here's the reality. I also took action, and it was that put me on the path to where I am today, to be able to be like so easily on camera and not even think twice about it. Right? It was those first few videos were fucking rough. But guess what? I also leave them up because why? Because I had to start somewhere, and it's a part of the journey, bro. Like, there's no judgment in it at this point for me. I'm like, no, go look at that shit and see how much better I am today than I was then 10 years ago. Because that's what we forget, dude. We're celebrated in public for what we practiced in private for years.
Yeah, no. It's insane. Like, all the work that I've done in my whole life in different aspects, I see it come through my podcasting. Like, I wanted to be better with women, like most teenage boys, right? So I started learning, body language. What do girls like? Started, the quote unquote pickup artists, and like going, okay, this is kind of crazy, but hey, like, let's be honest. You watch, like, I think MTV had a pickup artist show for a bit.
I think what you're referencing to is that era and that term called peacocking.
There you go. Understanding what peacocking is and understanding how you can use it to you. And like, obviously a kid's going to go to the extreme. And then when you start growing up and getting somewhat wiser, we're not going to say completely wiser here, because I don't think we ever become fully adults until we die. Like, that's when we become an adult, I think, fully. But the rest of the time, we're just a giant child, at different ages. But you start learning your style. Okay, what can be peacocked or not? I like tattoos, so that's going to be my peacock, because a lot of people ask about one of my tattoos. Because it's both it's a semicolon tattoo, but also the W looks really weird because it's a very different, weird font, and it says warrior, right? And I have that because my younger brother, he, when he was 21, which like 15, no, shit, I think we're nearly at 18 years now. 18 years ago, I want to say, had a psychotic break and now suffers from paranoid schizophrenia. So, and he battles every day. And so he's a warrior in my book. And because the semicolon tattoo has that, like, you have a shift in your life. For me, because he battles every day, he's the warrior in my life. And so I have that for him. But also the W looks really weird because it's like old English style. So people are like, warrior? So it's like a good conversation starter, which is what a peacock should be, right? From that era. So like, I did internalize some of it, made it my own. But that's what it was kind of like teaching at like the forefront of it. It's just be your own person. And that's discovering who you are. Like, who is Phil as an individual? Where's his weaknesses? Where his strength? I've been leaning into my strength so much. I haven't really put any money into the, weaknesses, which need to be, buffed out, because you can't win any prizes if you, working all the muscles.
Yeah. I think there's also different schools of thought of that. I mean, how much do you invest in a weakness if it's truly a weakness versus understand how to align with someone else who can offset or complement that weakness with their skill sets and brilliance? What I mean by that, there was a time when I cared so much about what other people thought of me because I learned to receive love, validation, and connection through performance like you, right? In other ways, is that I had to be the guy that could do everything. So I would operate my life under so much control to be able to produce an outcome that represented that I could do everything, right? So a very simple thing that is funny today, but I used to be so good at scheduling and like getting things on my calendar. But that was when I was trying to offset a weakness, which is that I don't operate well in that structure. I don't do well with back and forth. It breaks my brain the way that I have to operate to schedule something effectively. It's a lot of effort and it would completely zap me every time I did it, but I freaking did it, right? But as soon as I could completely surrender that and realize I don't need to be good at scheduling, I just need to either have a process or a system to be able to schedule for me, or I need a person or a team who can recognize this about me and offset that. And oh, by the way, I have friends today who still get upset because they ask me to go to lunch and I'm like, hey, find some time on my calendar. And they're like, I'm your friend, not your client. I'm like, cool. If you're my friend, then you'll understand this is a block for me and you'll help me schedule or suggest some dates so that I can send them over to my team. But if you're asking me to produce options for you, I can't work that way. I'm sorry. Right. And why I say this, Phil, is again, this isn't to beat the point, but it's exactly that. Like, how do we recognize our weaknesses, the areas that can be polished, that really are just something we just need a slight shift, versus those things that truly we're not wired to be doing and spending our time and energy on anyway, because we actually have other areas that we are brilliant, right? And that's, anytime I hear people talk about like this weakness versus strength thing, I will go down the strengths paths 10 out of 10 times. I would rather people double down and invest on their strengths, because the weaknesses will either follow or there will be a path to close them with the proper amount of delegation or systems if you're aware enough.
I agree with you that you should lean into your strengths, obviously, and find either people who can counterbalance your weaknesses, or like you say, like get rid of them completely, like not worry about it. Because I like learning though, I want to learn about my weaknesses and see if I can. I know they'll never be strengths. I know, like, you know, me running a marathon, my body is not built like that. There's going to be too much work for me to go in to be able to run like the 59,000 marathons or whatever. I can do a marathon once and probably survive it. And I know I'll never love it. That is, I know, is a weakness, but it's like a weakness I can overcome, but it's a one-time weakness. Like something like that. That's not something that's a strength of mine. It will never become a strength of mine. But I want to, like, yeah,
dude. Oh, that's part of the awareness journey.
It's like, I know what my strengths.
Can I improve in this area?
Yeah, I just want to see if I can improve to a point where, like, if I needed to, I need to outrun a zombie apocalypse, you know, like I've run a marathon, I can outrun a zombie apocalypse, right? Like, I'm not too worried about that. I know doing parkour, that is like a huge weakness of mine because I have that double thought process. Like, yes, I'm willing to do crazy, stupid things, like, you know, like jumping out of a plane with a parachute and getting my parachute license, like, which is a goal, like a dream I have, but also running off a building and then jumping off one building to another building. I'm going to do it. I'm going to have that second thought because my first thought is like, let's friggin' go. We can do this. And then the rational part's going to catch up and be like, wait, are you fucking stupid? What are you doing? And I'll end up fucking myself over, you know, whereas jumping out of a plane, the rational part's like, well, you have a parachute. At least there's the parachute. We can survive on that. Like, there's two parts of my brain sometimes. The crazy guy who just jumps without thinking and then the guy who overthinks everything.
I get that. You got into interviewing and questions through a whole variety of stuff that we just unpacked in these last couple of answers. And one of the things that you had said, and I think you had told this to me before, is that you often ask at this point many of the same questions on your show. At what point did you shift from the questions you were talking about that were just pure curiosity to a structured interview approach where you were ultimately unpacking the same types of questions or themes for similar or various guests?
I think when I went from focusing on growing the podcast to growing a business. Because once the podcast was at a place where I didn't have to worry about guests coming in because I had the automations pretty much set up. If I need an influx of guests, I can go to this Facebook group, just put a thing, and hundreds of entrepreneurs will want to come on my podcast because of the groundwork I did at the beginning, you know, getting the award, hitting the top charts, all that stuff, getting the high value guests, that bring some prestige, you know, like Brian Bogert, you know, an amazing, person who brought so much value to my podcast. Sabir, I keep forgetting his last name, but he's like this guy who does growth. People who've worked with like Alex Hormozy, like these people are like huge names in the industries. And because I was able to be authentic with them and I want to learn about them and not use them for their connections, it brought up the value of my podcast. So like I have connections with their representations who are looking for podcasts, and because they have such their clients come back with glowing reviews, moves up because I have that authenticity when I do ask the questions. Cause I want to learn about you. I want to know more about you on your business side. Your personal side, yeah, that's cool. Like, unless it impacts your business, I don't give it's your personal life. You have kids, cool, great. I want to talk about your business. Like, what was it like for you for doing this? What was the feelings? What we're going through? Because I know one that's going to elicit those responses that will resonate with the audience, but it's also automated because then I'm over here on the business side going, okay, I need to get this done. I need to get this done. And I'm building a business for like the first time, really, because building a podcast is simple, right? I know the systems to put in place, and boom, we're good. And now, okay, and I'm just going to automate being Phil Better, the host, because it's a simplistic thing. I have 3 questions I ask, and then I can figure out the questions. Either if I'm stuck, I have questions I wrote out beforehand, or I had my system write out beforehand.
So, what have you found to be the best benefits from having a more systematized approach to your interviews, and what are the biggest drawbacks?
The drawbacks would be the leaps and bounds in learning that I did, because I was asking more poignant questions about business building versus emotional questions. So it would be like, okay, so how did you get your first 5 clients? Like, what did you do? Versus, what was it like after getting your first 5 clients and the feelings you were going through?
That's a very different question. Yeah.
Right? Like, it's still dealing with the first 5, but they're completely different. And one of them is more like, well, I did this, and it's dry. It's great for me because it's like, okay, I'm learning that shit. I'm like, okay, that's what I can do. I can try that. Versus the audience is going to be like, okay, that I'm not there. I'm not anywhere near that. I don't really care about that. I want to be inspired. I want to hear, okay, that's what the feeling I can have. Like, oh my God, after I got my first 5 clients, I popped a bottle of champagne with my wife. We drank until we were friggin' stupid. And then it set in that, oh shit, I have 5 clients that I have to get shit done with. What the hell am I going to do? And then jumping into the work in the late nights. But like at every night I was just so happy because, I was helping someone, with their marketing for their business and whatever. And when I finally delivered it to my client, this is what I felt. You get this emotional roller coaster that an audience, a listener will be like, I can be inspired by this. That's something I can do. I want to feel that. Versus knowing that they have to do the steps to get those 5 clients, So
what's really interesting, Phil, is that, and let me say it this way, because again, this is actually not about me. It's just about the experience I've had with a lot of hosts, because I've been a guest on, I don't know, close to 1,000 shows somewhere, give or take a few. That means I've been through a whole variety of different interviewers, right? And many go through the process of regimenting their show, but what it actually leads to is more surface. Right. And what I'm hearing for you is that systematizing was actually to put intent into creating the emotional resonance and connection consistently throughout your interviews. And so it was beyond just the strategy and tactics that may fit the more surface of others. But I think what I'm hearing is that on the fly questions led to more surface for you, but putting intention behind how do I extract the emotional resonance is what elevated not only the depth of your connection, but the improvement of your clients' stories.
Yes.
Is that podcasting? Did I hear that correctly?
Yes. From a podcasting point of view, 100%.
Okay.
As a podcast host, so I look at my life, I kind of like segment my life because it just makes my life easier. That's so okay. I have this part of my life that it is the podcast host, and his goal is always to hear, that's a great question. If he hears, that is a great question. Episodes good. He's done his job for like, that's the podcast host. He hears that. That's all he cares about hearing. And because those deep questions that elicit responses other than what are the steps you took to get your first 5 clients, didn't get those. That's a great question versus what was the feeling like after getting those 5 first guests. So like, he's happy. He knows he's doing a great job. However, the business version of me is like, this doesn't help me. These interviews don't help me anymore to figure out how I'm going to get clients, how I'm going to build my business. So now I have to figure it out and I'm going back to school. And it's like, this is the learning that I dislike because I can't ask the questions that I specifically want answers to. So it's like, what can I do? So it's figuring out that. And there's that part of me is like, that's kind of happy where the show is going because it's also the producer. It's also the guy who's like, okay, our downloads are going up because people are enjoying this. We got onto the LA Tribune podcast network. Like we're going up, like our podcast is growing. However, the business side is like, swinging back and forth and understanding that we also have so much knowledge to give because I've been in the space for so long and I talk to entrepreneurs and I learn how they make their business, right? And I'm like, that's easily applicable to podcasters. Mm-hmm. But it's also like, okay, now I have to disseminate this information to the masses. And like, how do you do that effectively and still build the credibility that, you know, like, hey, yeah, I'm a guy who is making like $17K from his podcast every year, but I've made people millions of dollars through using their podcast as a marketing tool. Like, listen to me. I know what I'm talking about. That authority, kind of like the frustration of authority too, going into there. Man, I went everywhere with this question and answer. My God.
It's okay, dude. I mean, you're being real and you're just letting it flow. And, you know, you're also talking about how sometimes we can see the path, help teach others the path, even if we're still walking it ourselves. And you're highlighting that very, very beautifully, right? The shift into business, but being able to help other people monetize their business and grow it is something that as you were learning your own abilities, stepping into this further and further, the more you've done it, right? You've also had your clients directly benefit from it. Which, by the way, goes back to my original point of the original stuff that you said was garbage, because if it was for you, it's going to benefit everybody anyway. But that's not me saying I told you so. I saw that connection.
Yeah, there's told you so.
I just had an ADD shiny object moment there that was like, oh, wait, we just talked about this in a different way. This is awesome. Bro, what I need to know, though, is because you are such a learner, and you've put so much intention into reaching out to so many successful people who've done things very, very well, what would you say are the top 2 or 3 lessons, whether associated with just an individual or more broadly across your show, that you've extracted since you've been interviewing others?
The first one, like the minute you asked that, the first thing that popped to my mind was mentorship. Every single successful person found a mentor.
Or
multiple mentors. They started with a mentor.
Yep.
They may have tried on their own and realized, no, I'm an idiot. Maybe not in that words, or I don't know what I don't know. Found a mentor. Mentor was able to help them either in their business, in their industry, in parts of their life, wherever they want to be successful. They found a mentor. If you think about it, you know, and it makes sense. Michael Phelps has like how many coaches? They're just mentors. They're just mentors to him in individual things, you know, like, so it's the same thing in yours. You're just getting coaches, mentors on your team to make sure that you can become the best version of yourself, and stay curious. That is probably from the biggest and most successful people I've talked to. They're curious about so much because they look at another industry and go, what's going on over there? Walk over and learn about the industry and go, we're not doing that over in my original industry. Let me just try that over here. So you're curious, like, what does this do? What does this little doodad over here do? Oh my God, it makes the doodad go bigger. You know, they're curious. They're children. They're willing to break things, see if it works. You know, like they have that curiosity always in them. It's like, find someone that knows something, learn from them, and then be curious enough to do and break something. Know the rules and break them.
I love it. You're such a dynamic guy that has his hands in a variety of different things, both from interest and experience, right? You've talked about acting. You've talked about obviously what you've done with podcasting. I know you've, been in the charcuterie meat slicing business. You've also taught science camp at Cambridge University or Cambridge
my God.
Whatever. Right? Help me understand this. So, I got to know this. Tell me the story.
So when I was, I want to say 21. I think I said 21, right? I'm about 21.
You said 24 on here.
24. Okay. Yeah. So I was 24. 24 years old. I'm working for a company called Mad Science. Okay. They go into schools, offer after school programs on science, but in fun, engaging ways. So they have, let's learn about space. So they have, these are asteroids, these are planets. And by the end of the course, right, which is a couple of weeks of hour-long things, we build a rocket and we launch the rocket. And so I have officially launched over, I closed in at about 400 rockets so far.
What?
Yeah, with like legit rocket, like you buy, like model rocket.
Real ones. Yeah.
Yeah, full on.
Like
but so you get right up and you're like, oh my God, I have so much explosive. I should not be 24 years old with this. Looking back, bad. Then great. I'm surprised I still have all my thumbs. But because I was working in the Montreal branch, they own the rights and because it started in Montreal, they own the rights to all the Indigenous First Nation communities across Canada because they got the contract with the government. I don't know how they did it, whatever, but there's like franchises everywhere. And then they just sell the rights to the Indigenous community, First Nation in that region. But because the most lucrative one is the First Nations in the North, because they have to pay for flights up there. Everything's very expensive, by the way, up there. Like now a bag of chips is $5. It was $5 back then when I was 24 in Nunavut. So like they've been dealing with inflation since before God knows, right? So my boss came up to me. He's like, hey, you're going to do the Northern tour. I'm like, cool. Like this is a great opportunity for me. I was at the second most northern settlement in Canada. That's how north I was. The only further place north was a kind of like a research base before it got into like, the North Pole and all that, where Santa Claus lives. But yeah, I was there. I went with someone else who was doing another city because they're like, hey, you're going to have to extend it an extra week. And I'm like, I can't do that. My girlfriend's birthday is that week. She's going to kill me. Like, I would love to, like, personally, if I was single, 100%, but, significant other kind of like, I want to stay and have a girlfriend when I get back from the trip. So they brought someone else along. They got off first. And while we were in that community, the pilot came back. And you have to imagine, I was told we're going to be on a twin prop jet. Right? Small little city hopper because we're up north. No, we were in a full ass fucking jet. Okay. But it was half. So we were in the back, right? Maybe a dozen rows, maybe not even. And the rest was cargo. And it was like a refuted. Oh, wow. Yeah. So like it opens and put cargo. Oh, yeah. So, and you have these like these like really flabby walls separating us and the cargo that easily can be destroyed by like 100 pounds rushing into it. So we land, the pilot comes back and is standing next to me talking with the host, the airline attendant, turns to me and goes, hey, do you fly this often? I go, no. And he goes, oh, me neither. This is my first time. And I'm like, what, are you fucking kidding me? Anyways, we land in Nunavut, in Cambridge Bay, Nunavut. And if you search it up on Google, you'll find it's very far north. The runway's not that long. And you have this giant jet that used for like international landing. And the minute you hit reversing of the jets, and you're like, oh my God, you get out, right? And you have to walk to the airport, which is just this, not even a hangar. there's a guy outside turning with a manual crank your luggage because I can see my luggage. It's right there. I can pick it up and just go with. No, it has to go on the manual conveyor belt. But it's a great town. Everyone there is super nice. But yeah, I was really far north and jumped in water and it's cold and it was amazing. Met so many kids.
Well, that sounds epic. I love that you did that. It sounds like a really fun story. I'll bet you that pilot looks back on that flight and criticizes how shitty that first landing attempt was in the history of his ability to do it now. But dude, it's come, that's amazing all the way around.
Crazy.
You do a lot, not only in the space of podcasting, you've gotten awards in podcasting, but you obviously help people monetize, build their businesses and their messages through it. For those that are listening right now who either aren't in the podcasting world, and I mean that as a guest or as a host, what do you think the opportunity is still ahead of us? And what's the best piece of advice you could give to anyone to really capitalize on this opportunity?
I'm going to quote my client, Lloyd Ross, on this because he said it simply. Podcasting is the cheapest and simplest way to provide value to your ideal client. Be it, and now this is me saying, be it as a guest, like I'm doing right now, or as a host, like Brian is, hosting a podcast. You're providing value tenfold to an audience member, to your ideal client, to your ideal audience. It is a blue ocean that will continue to be a blue ocean because we are 8 billion strong and we're only growing more and everybody wants to know something. Not everybody's going to continue, but the people who persevere will be able to make the money from it.
And what's the best piece of advice?
Best piece of advice?
To capitalize on this opportunity.
Be a guest. Simple.
I agree.
Be a guest. Like if you're like, oh, I don't think I can handle a podcast, be a guest. It takes you 20 seconds to reach out to a podcast, go, hey, I would love to be a guest.
And by the way, I was a guest on over 400 shows before I started any of my own.
There you go.
Right. And it was a huge opportunity to leverage and scale my brand, ethically utilizing other people's platforms. But it also goes back to value and me understanding that I wouldn't have had access to do that without the investment that the podcasters were making in that medium. Right? The investment of time, the investment of production, the investment in the marketing and distribution. And so it's one of those things that I'm just going to encourage. If you go in only as a guest, you better find additional ways to add value beyond just your interview. Because if you want to last as a guest and get opportunities in a guest and have every single opportunity multiply into more, then it's all about that relationship. It's all about the value that you create and the impact that you add in whatever limited time you have on their platform. But remember that your voice on the platform in podcasting wouldn't exist without the host's assets. Don't forget that.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I'm guessing we're going to probably be wrapping up right now.
In the near future, but bro, go. If you got something to say, go.
No, because if we're going to be like wrapping up, I was going to say the best thing to do when you're wrapping up is always say, Brian, I want to thank you for having me on the podcast. And also to the listeners, make sure you rate this 5 stars on Spotify or follow the podcast on Apple. Those are the things, like if you feel Brian is doing amazing work, which he is, of course, doing amazing works.
Thank you.
Make sure you're subscribed and supporting on the platforms that you are listening. I would prefer you to be on, Apple or Spotify, but if you're listening to us and watching us on YouTube, subscribe, leave a comment. That's all you have to do. That's the bare minimum you need to do to show the love and appreciation of what Brian is doing. I'm not doing it for me. Don't do it for me. Do it for Brian. Do it on every single one of the episodes. But yeah, that's what you want to do because it supports him. It's going to allow him, and it takes you 20 seconds, not even, to do that. And before you know it, you're going to see Brian on CNN talking about his amazing brand, and everybody's going to be like, how did you build it? And you're going to be, I started a podcast. And it's going to be the next Joe Rogan.
Started a podcast, and Phil Better told everybody to start rating it, subscribing, and giving 5 stars. And as a result of that one episode, I exploded to CNN.
There we go.
It's gonna be great.
That's how it's going to start.
You're a part of the story, Phil, already.
I love it.
We always are a part of the story. It's just the one that's developing, right? Yeah. Bro, I love that. I want to know what's the legacy that Phil Better's going to leave? What's the big picture vision for you? What are you after? What's the impact you're after? How will you be remembered?
I want to be remembered as a titan of industry.
Woo!
But like I say, I call myself the podcast mogul because I believe in this industry so much that I want to be a mogul in the podcasting industry and my hand in all different types of podcasting verticals. However, I want to be viewed as a titan of podcasting, a titan of industry, with my name pretty much continually being used, saying like, hey, you know what? You're becoming the Phil Better of, of this industry, like how he was of podcasting. You're becoming like, some people say, yeah, I want to be the Mark Cuban, no, I want my name to be like, someone wants to be like Phil, Phil Better was of podcasting. I'm going to be the Phil Better of YouTube or something. Like people are saying already Mr. Beast, but I'm like, Mr. Beast is okay. He only has one vertical, but anyways. But yeah, something like that. That's what that's something I would love. Like that's the ego inside of me. The other side of it is leaving a legacy that allows people to do the dream that they always wanted. That's it. I want people to be able to be like, have that support and know that, hey, your crazy dream, as crazy as it is, you probably can get it done. Here's the tools to go. Go, my child.
So what I'm hearing is that Phil Better is going to make you feel better. And as a result, Phil Better is going to become a standard for all of us to chase after.
If you want. Like if I'm trying to stay humble, like
you feel better, man. There's something to that. I don't know what that just came to me, but that sounds good. That's probably not original. You probably have heard that before, but I feel like that just has a little zip to it.
It does, right? And it harkens back to who my legal name, because my legal name is Phil Lemure.
Ooh,
and Lemure actually translates to the best.
Ooh,
yeah.
Now we're getting ethereal. We're getting into like the understanding and meaning of even your given name, bro.
Yeah. So, because it's French and le is like you can drop it and then mure becomes better. So that's where Phil Better comes from.
Yeah, Phil Better will make you feel better until you become the best.
There you go.
And that's what's going to happen. Let's go, baby.
Yeah.
I like it, man. All right. Well, as we are wrapping up, you already did the promo for me. So that part's easy, right? As we start wrapping up, again, you've given us lots of little gold. You've given us little wisdom nuggets. You've given us your heart, elements of your story, places that you struggled, elements of how you needed to learn, grow, and be better yourself so that you can help others do that. What's the singular thing you want everyone from this episode to remember?
Stay curious.
Bingo. It's that simple, isn't it?
The more you're curious, the more the world opens up.
Phil, thank you for staying curious and for helping open curiosity in others. It's truly a pathway to connection, and I'm grateful for your time and wisdom with us today. We'll definitely be doing some more.
I look forward to it. And Brian, I want to thank you so much for the opportunity, and I'm so grateful for the friendship that we're building right now.
Two-way street. So, and for those of you that just saw Phil jump in and flip open his lid, we heard the stories of the past. We heard the elements of where he needed to learn very early on to ask questions. He had early success and a lot of impact in really unique ways, lots of fun experiences, but it wasn't until he started looking inward and being asked questions by professionals that helped him start to connect the dots of his own life that not only reshaped the way that he interviewed and went about asking questions, but opened up everything in terms of the lens of possibility. See, at the end of the day, when we become a learner and we can stay committed to finding freedom for ourselves, it allows us to connect those dots by answering those questions and making those choices. But if you don't ask the right questions, you won't have the options and opportunities to make the choices that will allow you to keep moving. So what I hear is what Phil Better just taught us is to be the best version of you. Stay curious. That's what will lead to your own freedom. But it's going to require you to flip open your lid and scan your can. But you'll get there.
What you can probably tell by now is that I love telling these stories, but what I love even more is the impact that's coming from them. You see, we're on a mission to impact over 1 billion lives as quickly as possible, but to do that, we need you. See, we believe that moved people move people. And so all I'm asking is if you've resonated, connected with any of the messaging, please consider commenting, sharing, leave a rating and review. Thank you so much for tuning into Flipping the Lid. And if you want more information on the show, how to become a guest, how to recommend a guest, or any of the other details, head over to flippingthelid.com. We'll see you there.